Mechanics of the universe. To begin, we will take the three-dimensional universe and consider the world as one of matter and force, in the simplest and most elementary meaning of these terms. Higher dimensions and new theories of matter, space and time, as well as other categories of knowledge of the world that are unknown to science, will be discussed later. At present it is necessary only to represent the universe in diagrammatic form, as the ray of creation, from the absolute to the moon. The ray of creation seems at first glance to be a very elementary plan of the universe. However, as one studies further, it becomes clearer that with the help of this simple plan, it is possible to bring into accord, and to make into one single whole, a magnitude of various conflicting philosophical, religious and scientific views of the world. The idea of the ray of creation belongs to ancient knowledge, and many of the naive geocentric systems of the universe known to us today are either incompetent expositions of the idea of the ray of creation, or distortions of this idea arising out of some literal understanding. It should be noted here that the idea of the ray of creation, and its growth from the absolute, contradicts some modern although not really scientific views. Take for example, the stage sun, earth and moon. According to our usual understanding, the moon is a cold and dead celestial body, that was once alike the earth, that is to say it possessed internal heat and at a still earlier period was a molten mass like the sun. The earth in its turn, according to the usual views, was once like the sun, and is also gradually cooling down, sooner or later in its turn becoming a frozen mass like the moon. It is sometimes supposed that the sun is also cooling down and will become in time, similar to the earth, then later on to the moon. This view of course cannot be called scientific in the strictest sense of the term, because in science, that is in astronomy or rather astrophysics, there are many different and contradictory hypotheses on the subject, none of which can be seriously proven or disproved. Either this or the idea that the sun shall expand and expand, becoming a red giant in the gradual course of time, engulfing the earth and other planets within some fiery apocalypse, then falling silently into a black hole at the end of its present life cycle, containing only antimatter, no light, no sound, nothing. The idea of the ray of creation, and its growth from the absolute contradicts these general views of our day. According to this idea, the moon is still an unborn planet, one that is, so to speak, in the process of being born. It is becoming warm gradually, and in time, given the favorable development of its particular ray of creation, it will become like the Earth and have a satellite of its own, a new moon, and a new link will have been added to this solar ray of creation. The Earth too is not getting colder, but actually getting warmer, global warming, and may in time become like the Sun. We observe such a process for example in the system of Jupiter, which is a sun for its satellites. In summation therefore, from World 1 down to World 96, it must be added that the figures by which worlds are designated indicate the number of forces, or orders of laws that govern the world in question. In the absolute, there is only one force and one law, the single and independent will of the absolute. The law of creation. In the next world there are 3 forces, or 3 orders of laws. In the next there are 6 orders of laws, in the following there are 12 and so on. In our world, that is the Earth, 48 orders of laws are operating, to which we are subject and by which our entire life is governed. If we lived upon the moon, then we would be subject to 96 orders of laws. That is, our life and activity would be still more mechanical, and we should not have the possibilities of escape from the mechanicalness that we now possess. As has been pointed out, the will of the Absolute is only manifest in the immediate world created by it, within itself, that is in the world of 3, within the Triad or Holy Trinity. The immediate will of the Absolute does not reach world 6, and is manifested in it only in the form of mechanical laws. Further on in worlds 12, 24, 48 and 96, the will of the Absolute has less and less possibility of manifesting itself. This means that in world 3, the Absolute creates as it were a general plan of all the rest of the universe, which is then further developed mechanically. The will of the Absolute cannot manifest itself in subsequent worlds apart from this plan, and in manifesting itself in accordance with its plan, takes the form of mechanical laws. This means that if the Absolute wanted to manifest its will, say for example in our world, in opposition to the mechanical laws in operation there, it would then have to destroy all the worlds intermediate, between itself and our world. The idea of a miracle therefore, in the sense of a violation of laws by the will that made them, is not only contrary to common sense, but to the very idea of will itself. A miracle can only be some manifestation of laws that are unknown to mankind, or that are rarely met with. A miracle is therefore a manifestation in this world, of the laws of some other world. On the earth, we are very far removed from the will of the Absolute. We are separated from it by 48 orders of mechanical laws. If we could but free ourselves from one half of these laws, we would find ourselves subject to only 24 orders of laws. That is to the laws of the planetary world. We would then be one stage closer to the Absolute, and to its will. If we could then free ourselves from one half of these laws, we should be subject to the laws of the sun, 12 laws, and consequently one stage nearer to the Absolute. If again we could free ourselves from one half of these laws, we should be subject to the laws of the cosmos, and separated by only one stage from the immediate will of the Absolute. The possibility for man thus gradually to free himself from mechanical laws does exist. The study of the 48 orders of laws to which man is subject cannot, however, be abstract, like the study of astronomy. They can be studied only by observing them in oneself and by getting free from them. At the beginning, a man must simply understand that he is quite needlessly subject to 1,000 petty and irksome laws that have been created for him by other people, and by himself. When he attempts to get free from them, he will see that he cannot. Long and persistent attempts to gain freedom will convince him of his enslavement. The laws to which man is subject can only be studied by struggling with them, by trying to break free from them. However, a great deal of knowledge is required in order to become free from one law, without creating for oneself another in its place. The order of laws and their forms vary according to the point of view from which we consider the ray of creation. In our system, the end of the ray of creation, the growing end, so to speak, of the branch is the moon. The energy for the growth, that is, for the development of the moon, and for the formation of new shoots, goes to the moon from the earth, where it is created by the joint action of the sun, of all the other planets of the solar system, and of the earth itself. This energy is collected and preserved within a huge accumulator, situated upon the earth's surface. This accumulator is organic life on earth. Organic life on earth feeds the moon. Everything living on the earth, people, animals, plants, insects, and microorganisms are all food for the moon. The moon is a huge living being, feeding on all that lives and grows upon the earth. The moon could not exist without organic life on earth, any more than organic life on earth could exist without the moon. Furthermore, in relation to organic life, the moon is a huge electromagnet. If the action of the magnet were suddenly to stop functioning, then organic life on earth would crumble to dust. The process of the growth and the warming of the moon is connected with life and death on this earth. Everything living sets free at its death a certain amount of energy that has animated it. This energy, life light, or the life force and spirit of everything living. Plants, animals, people, insects, microbes, molecules, atoms, photons, and quarks is attracted to the moon, as if by some huge electromagnet, and brings to it warmth and the life spark upon which its growth depends. That is the growth of the ray of creation, and in the economy of the universe nothing is lost, and a certain energy, having finished its work on one plane, passes to another. The spirit that descends to the moon, possessing perhaps even a certain amount of consciousness and memory, finds itself there under 96 orders of laws, in the conditions of mineral life, or as rocks. To put it differently, in conditions from which there is no escape, apart from a general evolution in immeasurably long planetary cycles to the level of plant life, the moon is at the extremity, at the end of the world. It is the outer darkness of Christian doctrine, where there will be weeping and the gnashing of teeth. The influence of the moon upon everything living manifests itself in all that happens upon the earth. The moon is the chief, or rather the nearest, the immediate motive force of all that takes place within organic life on earth. All movement, all actions and manifestations of people, animals, plants, insects, and microorganisms depend upon the moon, and are controlled by the moon. The sensitive film of organic life that covers the earthly globe is entirely dependent upon the influence of this huge electromagnet that is sucking out its vitality. Man, like every other living being, cannot in the ordinary conditions of life tear himself free from the moon. All of our movement and consequently all of our actions are controlled by the moon. If we kill another person, the moon does it. If we sacrifice ourselves for others, the moon does that also. All evil deeds, all crimes, all self-sacrificing actions, all heroic exploits, as well as the actions of ordinary everyday life, are controlled by the moon. The liberation that comes with growth of mental powers and faculties is liberation from the moon. The mechanical part of our life depends upon the moon, and is subject to the moon. If we therefore develop in ourselves consciousness and will, then subject our mechanical life and all of our mechanical manifestations to them, then and only then, are we able to escape from the power and influence of the moon.